Hey kids, this is Kalir.
And it's Tafari.
What? That can happen? What?
What? Wait, I'm not dead. I swear.
It's a Christmas miracle. And also as a Christmas miracle is we're playing Transistor.
Yes, the call of Supergiant brings me from the grave to speak on the internet about things.
And we have a shotgun sword.
So what did you just load out here?
It's still very early on. We've got Bounce that is... Bounce and Mask got an equal number of votes, but I like Bounce most, so I went with it.
Okay.
I found that Bounce was
Back.
pretty useful before you start getting the really game-breaking combos, because Bounce is very strong. It does a lot of damage for what it does.
Bounce is just... It's all around reliable. I really like it. Even late in the game, I still use Bounce as an active function, but that could just be personal preference.
See, I found that late game Bounce works better as a passive or a support ability. Options.
Yeah, I forgot what buttons were for a second.
It happens.
But now, Bounce really gets terrifying when you get this function that we'll be getting later this video. We don't have it yet. We will get it later. It will be amazing.
Is it to start with L?
Yes.
Yay. That is one of my favorite functions in the entire game, for a variety of reasons.
Anyway, with what we've got right now, Bounce, which we're using here, will chain to other enemies. We also upgraded the crash function with Spark, so now it splits into 3 attacks. It's a shotgun sword.
I was never a terribly huge fan of that.
Here he comes.
I found that Spark was one of the most useful abilities and one of the things that we'll see later, and it works better to apply the split functionality to the other abilities that you also get later. Mysterious!
It's alright, I think, like...
It's a great skill, and it's also fun to use because it's just pew, 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 pew.
Yeah, just a lot of stuff happening everywhere.
Yeah, just lots of explosions. Spark is probably one of the more, I guess, utilitarian functions.
Yeah.
It can be used for a lot of stuff.
I mean, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage on its own, but it works in turn or out of turn. Something that Crash and Breach that we have right now really can't pull off.
Yeah, like, I feel like the game was kind of pushing you to use Jaunt as much as you possibly could.
Nah, I don't use Jaunt. That sounds like a lame thing for losers.
See, I didn't like Breach. I never found much use for Breach in any capacity. I think, well, its passive was increases turn capacity, right?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's where I had it installed 90% of the game, because it's too slow, it doesn't do enough damage.
It doesn't do enough damage. Breach does pretty good damage, actually.
But it's so slow, and it takes up so much turn, that I feel like you're better off backstab crashing for the same amount, and you get more out of it.
Yeah, but I don't really like Crash, personally, but like
I love Crash.
This is like Bastion. You use whatever. You use what you want. If you want to say... If you want to say, hey, I want to use Spark as my main thing all the time, you can do that.
The game completely supports that.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, and it's like the user flexibility of Bastion, like just taking to several orders of magnitude.
Yeah, it's great.
You turn left.
Here's a cutscene. We turned left. He told us not to turn left because if we turn left, we're going back to the empty set.
Well then.
Empty set is, of course, where we were fleeing from earlier. Why we were fleeing from there is, we don't know yet, but we will find out. Apparently it's got something to do with the Camerata.
The Camerata. They're the worst. Or are they?
They're... We don't want to go back there, but we are going back there because that's what Red feels like doing, so, you know, who am I going to argue?
You know, I guess, gosh, I don't know if this is appropriate to bring up or not, but I guess in light of, this is going to be super topical in like 2 years, the current controversies surrounding blowing up the internet right now, that, you know, Red is a character that experiences a pretty fair good amount of agency in this game.
Yeah, she does what she wants, and that's perfectly cool. And, like, this is a bit early to be talking about this in the case of this LP, but Transistor is a really open-minded game about all kinds of things.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember when you told me about that.
Like, there's a couple things which not going to talk about it now, mostly because spoilers, partly because we don't even have the stuff related to it, but we'll talk about this stuff, believe you me.
Yeah, no, this game is...
They beat us here.
Yeah,
Right now, shotgun
this game's
sword.
Stronger than the last ones.
Man, those things... I actually found those things to be some of the most obnoxious enemies in the entire game, just because that beam attack does a ludicrous amount of damage.
That beam attack, the damage isn't the big thing for me. The big thing is that it keeps screwing with your movement.
You still hear me?
See, I just... See, the way that I ended up playing the game was that I didn't have to move around a whole bunch, but the power that those things just shred through your health so much that I found them to be truly one of the worst things in the game.
They're pretty mean, yeah. But yeah, it's the different processes in the game, which is all the enemies, they all have different upgrade levels. The higher the upgrade, the more dangerous they generally are, but sometimes that's not quite the case here.
Really? No. Who?
Well, take
I mean,
this,
what you
take
see.
Creep 2.0 here. In this mode, it's pretty dangerous. The later mode, it has a really mean add-on to its beams, but for some loadouts, that addition is actually not too huge a deal. Like with Shotgun Sword, we'd actually want that addition.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a terribly huge fan of the shotgun sword, but I think I had Crash equipped in slot 1 the entire game. Just like I think I used that, and I used something else to make
You
it.
use
basically-
Flourish.
I flourish constantly. The cool, like, this is actually something that people talk about a lot, and it's one of the more emblematic, I guess, like, features of the game in that it.
Not a soul.
Is it okay to say that it serves no purpose?
The what?
Is it okay to say that the flourish serves no purpose?
Oh yeah, it's just there because you can do it. Why not?
Yeah, it's just there because it's fun to do, and why
Sea
not?
monsters really
Yeah,
the only
let's
choice.
order some food because that's fun to do.
I know,
I'm-
now
I'm gonna-
this is actually the most important decision in the entire game.
Yep,
Or that.
I want lots of food. Let's go Supremo Deluxe.
I think the first time I went through, I chose the sea monster.
Well, yeah, it's his recommendation.
They're hungry too.
It's a new thing.
It's a useless thing.
It's not terribly threatening at the moment. Later on it can be, but right now it's just, who cares? The only really scary thing is that Creep over there, and we have Breach. We'll just shoot it in the face.
See how slow that windup is? It's impossible to use practically.
Yeah, but it's got crazy amounts of range. Better range than anything else in the game. So if I'm just over there, and he's over there,
Let's go.
lasers.
And honestly, my opinion of Breach may be, I guess, tainted by the fact that when I first started playing this game, I was kind of terrible at it. I
For some greasy
did not
flatbread.
really grasp the intimacies of the combat, and I kind of feel like that's because it keeps several functions that I feel kind of make the game from you until about
Never seen gold block
2/5
cleared
of the
out.
way through.
I kind of agree, but I can see where they're coming from, because the first two functions you get, Crash and Breach, they are
You know,
slow.
melee and ranged.
They're melee and range, but they're slow. The game is heavily pushing you to be like, you know what? Use functions in turn.
You got on the camera on a short list. More than
And
just a name to them now.
I kind of have a bit of an issue with that because turn recovers so slow, and because you can't do much besides jaunt around, I feel like it kind of stacks the deck against you a little bit in a way that makes the
You've
game more
reached the
hostile than it
hopefully
should be at the
not
very
permanent
beginning
address of Mr.
for a game of this nature.
I can see where you're coming from here, I guess. Anyway, the functions that we're listing here, they are all tied to a different person in the game. Like the voice in our sword is tied to the Breach function. Crash is tied to ourselves.
Lillian Platt.
This is the woman we found early on who gave us Spark.
And this is one of my favorite things about the entire game is that it is passive storytelling that requires an active use of the gameplay mechanics, because you unlock more of each character's biography by using each of the different abilities in the different function slots: active, passive, and support.
Right, like in the case of Lillian, because we use Spark both on its own as an upgrade to Crash, we have 2 paragraphs for it rather than just the one for everyone else.
And I think that
Preston
this is
Moyle.
one of the most
Guess he went out joyriding
awesome
one night
things
and
I've
never
seen
came
in a
back.
good long time, because if you are interested in reading more about the kind of, reading about the characters in these games, and you probably are, it forces you to constantly be juggling up your loadout to unlock more biographies,
Yeah.
which forces you to experiment with all kinds of different combinations of functions and abilities, which is the
No
gameplay
cute, get
core.
in.
So
That's a
Yeah.
first.
it ends up being a situation where the gameplay reinforces the story and vice versa, and that is like my favorite thing ever.
That was actually, most of that was in response to a thing that happened in Bastion, where there's a bunch of cool weapons in Bastion. We all know this by now, but most people just stuck with the ones they wanted for the whole game and never tried the other ones, which
Yeah.
you're kind of depriving yourself of the fun. But in that case, there's no real incentives to switch it up.
Yeah, because you're not earning more like abilities or anything like that. Like the secret skills came from their own things. So
Right.
They're fixing the big guy.
Anyway, the weed enemies here, the little tentacles that come out of the ground, they can heal enemies, and they'll do damage to Red as long as she's nearby, but they don't do a whole lot of damage. The packets are just explosions, exploding barrels.
oh my goodness. I guess we're gonna get to the thing soon.
Yeah, right about here, actually.
Oh, cool.
So, new function time, because we've hit a new user level. You don't always get functions, you'll get other stuff, but this time we are totally getting a function.
Oh, we're totally getting a function, and it's one of the best.
Yeah, we have a choice between Switch, which is very good, you get to convert enemies to your side, or you can get Load, which,
Boom.
yes, more explosions. And
More
you know me, more explosions.
I was gonna say, if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know.
Anyway,
Yeah, no, load is another one that I actually kept in the passive slot for most of the game, because like its active effect is awesome.
it is that's like Help and Load were two functions that had as active for almost the whole game because of how fun they are.
See, I use load as active for a while until I got enough passive slots, because like load is just it is incredibly slow, and I found that the way I played the game did not lend itself to setting up a bunch of packets.
Right.
But instead, having it on a passive, it'll just spawn a packet like every 10 seconds,
Which is pretty nice.
which is amazing, because like it just adds the opportunity. Like, you're running around the combat arena doing what you're doing, and then all of a sudden, there's this thing that will do a massive chunk of most enemies hit points that just shows up randomly and just adds to the chaos.
Load it up.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I personally prefer having it as
Pop it.
an active function with the breach attached to it, because then I can just
Nice,
set it somewhere
nice.
and then be like, there's a bunch of enemies there. I think there needs to be a packet there.
And again, like
They're saying they're
it
pulling
sounds
out
like you
left.
played fairly strategically and practically, whereas I was like once I got the ability to do it, I was just in the middle of the fray, just blowing everything up. I inadvertently ended up stumbling
that's
upon
right.
what most people consider the most powerful combo in the game.
Oh, what is that?
I guess if we're gonna say it, it is,
Out of
what
the
is it
channel
exactly?
at
It is
right
Void. It's
Oh,
Void,
it's-
Purge,
okay.
and Tap.
Yeah, that one that kind of just wins.
It kind of breaks the game in half.
I will probably not be doing that, mostly
I think
because
you
I
should
don't
show
have.
it off. I think you should show off how stupid it
Eight
is,
blocks
but
off.
maybe not use
Almost
it,
there.
because it does kind of. I mean, it was super useful for running all 10 limiters. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that.
I just don't really like using Void as an active function, but
It's so
I know
good.
it's good. It's just not my thing. But we'll get to that when we actually get the function, because it's still a ways
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
Right now,
Right
explosions.
now, let's blow up some creeps.
See, we'll put something over there, and then blow that up also, and you also get blown up. And this is kind of how my games of Transistor go, is just, during turn, the world is now a smoking crater.
See, and I ended up again, and this just speaks to, I guess, how little or how long it took me to grasp the combat system.
Okay, it's on.
I attached Mask to Crash and was just backstabbing dudes and
Extabe.
Burn. It was kind of stupid. Like it was unfun to an extent, and that's why that's kind of why I feel like I wish the game didn't hide as many interesting functions from you.
Yeah, this is why you should apply Mask as an upgrade to Help instead, like I did.
Just pass.
Then you have someone running around backstabbing everyone, while you are personally just making explosions happen.
I can definitely see how that works. Function files updated 3.
Yep, we have learned more things about the people. I'll be posting these in the thread with each update that I devote to a function.
Okay,
First update is going to be around Jaunt, because everyone loves Jaunt, apparently.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's the only thing that keeps you alive once you turn on some limiters, really. I guess not the only thing.
Yeah, like, I can see Jaunt being useful. It's not one of my favorites, though, because it's just kind of generic, I guess.
See, I found the ability to, because Red moves so very slow that having an augment to her speed was just really important. Like, I mean, I also felt that the Kid moved pretty slow as well.
Right, but I don't know. It's personal preference, really. And personal preference for right now is we're going to make our dash explode, because we can do that.
Yes, there is. Oh my gosh, there's actually a way to combine to make Jaunt just the flashiest, most explosion-causing thing ever. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, we don't quite have the capability to do that yet, but I will at least show it off once, because A, everyone in the Let's Play really likes Jaunt, and B, that particular combo is just cool.
It's awesome. It just everything explodes forever.
Basically. Anyway.
I also found that having an attack on Jaunt
Get ready to get jumped.
was also super awesome.
Right.
Or not.
I don't actually do this in the video,
stick
but
around.
if you apply Jaunt as an upgrade to something, you can use it even when turn is recharging, which, for some functions, they're kind of slow out of turn, so you don't really want to.
Mhm.
But some of them, ping, really good.
See, I found the value in putting that on Crash, so I could make things quit attacking me.
Yeah, that's totally legit. But, like, there's a whole bunch of different functions that work that way.
Ping, 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 ping.
Ping is one of them. It's one of my favorites. There's Purge, there's Crash, there's Switch, if you're kind of amazing.
If you're feeling super crazy, and that actually shows up in the later performance tests as a tactic that I personally use to beat the harder performance tests.
Right.
It's super fun.
Like, something else fun. That enemy that we just killed is the cheerleader, which, if it points at an enemy, that enemy is just invincible no matter what you do to it. But you can totally attack the cheerleader, no problems. If you use Switch on a weed, it will heal you. If you use Switch on a cheerleader, it will make you invincible.
Yeah, Switch, you kind of have to invent your own reasons to use Switch because it's not exactly an intuitive ability. My personal favorite thing about Switch is that when you switch something, like normally in the course of the game, unless you're using Help, you're the only thing that gets aggroed upon.
Right.
But when you switch, the things that you switch also start drawing aggro, basically giving you a little bit of breathing room.
It's just a generally useful function, which different from Jaunt in that it's not all the times useful. Sometimes it's like, oh, you accidentally hit a bad cell, who cares?
Yeah.
But it's just generally handy to have. Anyway, I think we're going to be wrapping it up here as soon as I just look at the function stuff here. If you want to read it, maybe it will be legible in the video, I don't actually know. If not, then once we get to all these functions, I will post the full stuff about them. But for now, we're going to call it good.
I recommend reading it.
Yeah, it's got the backstories and such.
And the writing is interesting and good.
It is. Alright, well, I'm Kalir, this is Tafari, and this has been Let's Play Transistor.
Y'all take care.
Next time, we're headed to the empty set.
Stay tuned.
Or don't, whatever. I'm not your boss.
No, do.
Do it.
Do stay tuned.
Stay.